Ladies and gentlemen, we need to have a chat about Acheron because this character is just too cool, and I'm seeing a lot of conversations around everyone must pull her into she's completely overhyped, she's useless without the light cone. I'm seeing so many different conversations around this character, and I just wanted to have a chat from my free-to-play perspective on this character, and we're going to go through my basic summary, my pros, cons, synergies, areas of thought around this character, but I'm just going off the official information that we have. I think this character, when we talk about the must-pull side of things, firstly, this character is like honestly the perfect character in my opinion, design-wise. She caters towards the waifu lover people, but she also caters towards the people like me who just love cool shit, essentially. Like, I just love cool stuff. I like the big mechs. I like anything that I classify, and the best way I can describe it is as cool. And I feel like this character with her ult, a different sort of ult gauge system, I just think she epitomizes what a cool character is, along with being a character that caters towards the waifu collectors. So I think this character is probably going to be a really high seller. She's got Jingliu vibes, but next level Jingliu vibes is the way I would put it. So based on that, based on the coolness of the character, I think, you know, she is going to be a must-pull for a lot of characters. Now, when we talk about the must-pull side of things on a more practical basis, I always say no character is a must-pull. You can play the game the way you want and stuff like that, but she does have something unique where I think her technique is something that if you are someone who does the daily world grind, I don't know anyone who does it anymore, but if you're that person, I think she then has almost a must-pull mentality. Now, I do remember when Yukong was announced with her fast running around the overworld, that people were like, oh, she's going to make the farming, and then I'm like, does anyone actually do it? I don't know. But with this one, I feel like, yes, you do need to use technique points to basically like insta-kill enemies in the overworld, but there's enough stashes around the world to get those technique points to be able to do it. Now, I'm curious from people who actually farm the overworld whether they think that will be a big thing, but to me, anything that saves time from the tedium of the gameplay that you do that you don't actually enjoy, that has great value to me. So I know that's like a tiny point of her kit, but if you do the overworld grind, I think her technique is something you definitely got to consider to speed up the time it takes to do something that really, for most people, probably isn't that fun. And I was going to bring into the account with this the idea of simulated universe for that simulated universe weekly farm to get all those upgraded materials for relics and stuff like that. However, they have said that they'll be making it easier in 1.3. I don't know how that works, whether that's just for the relics or whether that's for the entire farm. I'm not too sure, but it's definitely something to consider. But that is the first thing I wanted to touch on. The character is simply cool as hell, and she does have a very functional technique that can actually help you with a grind, which I think is quite nice. Now, the rest of the must-pull arguments and stuff like that, it's going to come down to calculations, which we have to wait until the character's released to do calculations. But the thing I have gone with, when you have a hype character like this, it's kind of like Jingliu, where Jingliu completely like dominated when she came in. When you got such a cool character that's hyped, they know everyone's going to love it. You can tell from the dev live stream how much time and effort they put into this character. I don't think they're going to release this character in a completely weak state. So I think when you're looking meta-wise, if you want to like lean a bit more into the meta, which I always think for free to play, it is what it is. As long as I'm like clearing stuff and getting the stars, I don't really care if I'm doing it in 0 cycles, 3 or 4 or 5. As long as I'm getting the 3 stars at the end of the day, I'm pretty cool. But I do think, based on how much love and effort they've put into this character, she ain't going to be weak. That is my take, but you can wait and see. You can look at guides if that's what you're really waiting for to pull the character. Now, let's go through her basic kit, and then I want to have some thoughts around this character, because from what we learned in the live stream, I'm just super excited for this character. I was only going to pull for her on my main, but I got to go for her on my alt account and hopefully win a 50-50 there, because she's just too damn cool. So, skill summary. The skill is blast damage, so bigger damage on the main target, weaker damage on adjacent targets, and grants 1/. slash dreams. Now, what is slash dreams? It's tied into her talent, which basically she has 9 stacks of slash dreams that she can stack up to. And once she's got those 9 stacks, she can use her ultimate. And then on top of that, whenever an enemy is inflicted with a debuff, she gains 1 stack. And with that, if it's an AoE debuff, so like Pella using her ultimate, it's only 1 stack. However, if we have enemies, they showed in the live stream where the dog blows up, puts the debuff on the monkey enemy, that does count. So there's a lot of ways to get these stacks up through debuffs, through enemies, and through allies as well. We've got the ult, which is you get 3, and dude, when I saw this, all I could think about was Jing Yuan. I'm like, dude, I can see Jing Yuan players going, dude, what? Like they should just modify this into Jing Yuan. And then I'm just imagining the Lightning Lord and people like targeting the 12 Lightning Lord attacks. But honestly, this is an amazing feature for it. But like instead of having a random attack, you get to select the 3 targets for these attacks, which is huge in my opinion, instead of it being just random. And then that's followed by an entire AoE. Then we have the technique, like I mentioned. It's an insta-kill in the overworld and simulated universe for the smaller enemies. Not for like boss enemies around the world and stuff like that, but for the smaller enemies, it is going to be an instant kill. So you're not going to go into like boss rooms of simulated universe and like one-tap the boss for a technique point. It's going to be just like the in-between stages that you're going to be doing that for. Now, that is the basic summary of her kit, which if you haven't realized yet, I think it's an incredibly cool kit, and I am super excited about it. I just think the animations combined with the way it functions just gets me super excited. And that ult, the way you phase into that black and white mode for the ult, and then while you're in there, you're selecting the targets to strike, and then she's lunging at them. I just think that whole design for enjoyment of gameplay is absolutely fantastic. So that's my personal take, okay? Now, pros. I always like to make a pros and cons list. Now, technique OP for overworld farming. Like I said, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not as OP as I think it is. Like, maybe if you're basically one-tapping overworld mobs with, like, you know, like Herder and bloody Himiko or something like that, maybe that's still efficient. I don't know, but to me, I feel like when you're getting free kills in the overworld, it has to be quicker. But once again, simulated universe as well for that side of things. Single target and AoE damage. Now, we know that we hit this phase where destruction, not just destruction characters, but destruction style characters, including like Kafka, characters that can deal both AoE and single target and deal reasonable amounts of both, are really quite decent in this game. Now, we do have someone like Ratio who's really strong, and he's only single target focused, but I always like seeing characters that can do both and do both decently well. It just means you're going to have more splashable usability for them, which I always like, especially as free-to-play pulling units. I want to be able to use my units everywhere, and I think that's a pretty cool thing. So I think having single target and AoE damage is a bit of a benefit towards her. Now, I've got here Harmony saved for the other side. So when we look at synergies in a minute, she's going to want to be mainly used with nihility characters, which means if you've got those really strong harmony characters, they can be saved for the other side. You can be running those Bronya, Runmei, Sparkle comps on the other side, and then just running nihility with her, and then like you've got 2 really powerful comps. So I really do like that. I think it's pretty nice that she is using focusing on a different style of play. I do really like that. And then my final pro is, like I've mentioned several times in this video, the character is just cool. Like, dude, like, how do you not find this character cool? And that is a massive pro. That is honestly the biggest pro in my opinion, because I'm playing this game to have fun. Then I've got the cons. Not many damage-focused light cones for free-to-play players for her. So we'll have to wait and see what her signature light cone is. You can assume it's going to be OP, but in general, because of what nihility characters are, we don't have any of those big like crit rate, crit damage, full damage-focused light cones. Good Night Sleep Well is looking like the best one we're going to have for the style of play that she has. So we'll have to wait and see. But in general, that is what we're looking at. And then the other one I've got, you might have to build more units, meaning that because she is going to want to be played with those nihility units, and a lot of people are, you know, like myself included, you know, I just focus in on those key support units and build them because they work with most characters, where this is going to be more nihility based. I do have a Silver Wolf, I do have a Pella built on my main account, so I think I'm going to be pretty safe. You know, if you've pulled the Black Swan, if you pulled even Kafka to some extent, you're going to be pretty safe. You can slap slap them in as well. But yeah, that's the one thing is, like, you know, because a lot of people do focus on Harmony characters, you might have to build some other units. I just wanted to have another con in there, but basically this character is a pro character in my opinion. Now, when we go into the food, we'll go food for thought, and then I want to talk about synergies because I'm going to ramble a bit in synergies when I get there. So food for thought, preservation, sustain for the burn light cone. So we have the light cone that has topaz on the picture of it, the 4-star, which when the wearer is attacked, they apply a burn to the enemy. I think we'll have to wait and see, make sure this does give her the stacks of Slash Dream. But dude, I feel like you're going to probably want to play her with a preservation unit so that you can take advantage of this light cone. Preservation characters have just higher natural taunt value. They're more likely to get attacked. So that means you're probably going to be proccing this and getting her more stacks. And I feel like, you know, if you got 4 enemies that, you know, you do 1 round of attacks, then they come in and 4 enemies all attack this character and basically just give her 4 stacks. I feel like that's pretty busted in my opinion, but once again, that is just one man's opinion, but I think that preservation sustain characters are going to be like really just easy to pair with her if you have that light cone to get her extra stacks. That's one food for thought. The other food for thought is it's a solid banner for 4 stars when we have Pella on there, who's going to be a character that, let's face it, is going to work really well with her because debuffs, you want to be getting those debuffs to get the extra stacks. Pella also has Death Shred, which is fantastic to amplify her damage. I think Pella's just going to be a great unit. And then we also have Old Mate, the 4-star healer, who's I've just had a massive brain fart. You guys know the new 4-star healer who looks like an absolute savage. How did I forget his name? I don't know, but I ain't going to look it up. That's just going to stay as it is. All right, so now let's go through the synergies. Like I said, the synergies is going to be Nihility and I believe preservation for sustain. That is my thoughts. Now, I do think there could be a world in which you use like a Welt sustain because Welt is going to apply those debuffs and also basically sustain the team through his entanglement essentially. But I don't know if that's going to be as efficient as just running a preservation unit that can then get attacked and generate her stacks. I think like even for free-to-play players like Fire MC, you have a taunt on the skill, which then guarantees you to get attacked by those enemies and guarantees you to then apply and get those extra stacks. So I think Fire MC is actually like a sleeper good unit for free-to-play players for this one. The other thing we have is Aventurine, who's obviously coming, you know, after her, but Aventurine has the advantage of his ultimate putting a debuff on the enemies. So he's a sustain unit, he's a preservation unit, but then he also has his ultimate to apply a debuff, so he has the extra debuff application without consuming a skill point to get that debuff application. So I think Aventurine could be a really great unit for her for sustain as well. Then we look into the other side of it, which is the Nihility stuff. Now, I think the main ones that come to mind when you think Nihility to pair with her is like Pella and Silverwolf to basically just amplify her damage beyond belief, so you're basically just ignoring defense. I think those two have a great synergy. I think Black Swan, it would be stupid to ignore Black Swan if you have a Black Swan. I personally don't, but I think Black Swan would pair really well with a Silverwolf or a Pella in that type of team and function pretty well. I don't see any reason why that shouldn't work. Even to some extent, I think Kafka would work well, whether it's Kafka with a Pella or Silverwolf or Kafka with a Black Swan. I think the synergies are just there with debuff application. You're either going for the Death Shred method of maximizing Death Shred or the dot method to get more damage and more applications, or you can mix the two together and go through that. Now, if you're completely free to play, the only non-5-star unit that I've mentioned here has been Pella. So, you know, maybe you end up going for one of the other Nihility units. Maybe you look at something like I don't know, I feel like even Luca could have a place, but maybe not so much. I think Gwenithan's going to be probably the one that we get more. I'll have to do some testing when she comes out, because on my alt account, if I do get her, I've only got the Pella out of all those units, so I will test around with other units and see, but I definitely think there is going to be many team options for her. Now, when we talk about Harmony characters, I do think there could be a place for Harmony with her as well, especially if we look at it in terms of running Harmony plus her and 2 other Nihility, you forego the sustain. Maybe in that kind of situation, you're running a Welt as one of your Nihilities as a quote-unquote sustain, then you're bringing something else, like let's go free-to-play path, like a Pella for, you know, the other Nihility character. Then maybe you bring, if you got a Sparkle, because then you got extra skill points so that Welt can keep skilling as well to keep doing the debuffs. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that one. I think that's more of a thing that is going to be more finicky for players to play around with, but I do think that there will be someone who finds a good way to abuse using a harmony character with her, but I don't think it's going to be the staple way to do it, and I think it's going to have to be like you've got high investment and, you know, good relics and stuff like that to make something like that work, but I definitely think it will be a thing. But majoritively, I think we're going to see a lot of free-to-play players using Pella with her, and then I think in general, just due to that burn light cone and the way it functions, provided it does give her stacks, I think that's probably going to be the play for most players, pairing her with 2 Nihility and a Preservation character, but we will definitely have to wait and see. But like I said, my general thoughts on the character is, don't feel guilt pulling for her. I think she's going to be strong. I don't think you put that much love and attention into a character without making them completely OP. And I mean, she's got the insta-kill in the overworld, so even if she does turn out to be absolutely horrible, which she won't, but if she does, you can still cope on the fact that you can clear the overworld quicker even though you don't even clear it.